our first parents training. It's our first parents training, and we're thankful to all of you for taking that bold step on this journey with us. Because parenting with purpose means that you're intentional about your parenting and you're also mindful of the needs of your children. So thank you so much for that. Just to mention that this session is being recorded, and that is as much for your benefit as it is for us. It means that you can go back to the recording if needed and just catch up on things. So we hope it's okay with all of you that we're recording. And if anyone has any problems with that, please do let us know. We started out with the mood board. We hope that everyone is excited. We know that some people said they were stressed, and some people said they were maybe number one, happy. So that's very good. But if you are stressed, it's okay to be here. One of the things we aim to do is to provide a support network for everyone. Now, the other thing I'd like to mention is that we have a survey, and the survey would invite all of you to please take part in it. We want to have a survey at the beginning, but also a survey at the end. But the survey at the beginning is really helpful for us to understand where we're all starting from and how best to support. Without further ado, I'm really delighted that we have today with us Ann Palmer, who is the CEO and founder of Fig Tree International Limited. Ann Palmer has over 30 years experience in schools and an established background in leading, but also turning around schools in challenging circumstances. So you see, it's very deliberate that we've invited Ann today to give the keynote address. Ann is the founder of the Confident Executive Leadership Program for Black and Asian leaders, in addition to overseeing the accredited race charter mark for schools and colleges. So her profile makes her just the right person, not only to speak to us about parenting in a way that provides support for the children and supports them, especially children from backgrounds that could be challenging, whether as a result of race or as a result of economic status, educational level, or indeed heritage. But she's also the right person given her experience in leadership. She is the CEO of Fig Tree International, a company given international recognition in 2022. And indeed, Ann was awarded Freedom of the City of London in 2011. Ann is described as a leader who leads with flair and vision, and indeed is described as inspirational. She is one of our trustees in Africaneness, and we're really grateful to her for all the contributions she makes, seen and unseen. Thank you so much, Ann, for being here, and we're keen to hear you. Let us know your thoughts on this as part of the keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Peddy. And I'm absolutely delighted to see so many of you here this evening. I think one person put in the chat that they were a little bit stressed. Well, there is an Easter holiday coming up, so we're going to de-stress today. And when the Easter holidays come and you have your children with you full time, it's not going to be stressful at all. So that's going to be our mantra for this evening. So I've got a short period of time with you to explore what is a really interesting area for me around parenting. And I hope that I can give you some tips to take forward, maybe some provocative questions. But I suppose where I want to start is the fact that nobody can take away that parenting is probably the most important job in the world. Doesn't matter what else we do. Parenting is, and bringing those young people forward is the most important thing that we can do. So whatever your role is tonight, whether it's a parent or a carer or an auntie or an uncle, your role and you are important. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you and just checking that you are able to see what I can see.
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So I can't actually see you now, which might make me a little bit less nervous. But if you can't hear me, just shout or something, and we'll do what we need to. Okay. So In terms of our theme for tonight, my first question to you really is, when you think about parenthood, what are the first describing words? What are the first things that come into your mind? And let's add some of those into the chat. And if I could ask Peddy maybe just to read some of those out, as I can't see the chat at the moment. So what's the first thing that comes into your mind when you think about parenthood?
So we have nurture, protection, and thanks to all the parents filling in the words. I should also mention, please, if anyone would want to change their names on the platform, please feel free to do so, if you do not want to be identified. But thank you. We have responsibility, love, joy, life-changing, to bring up a child. And then there's caring, protection, and molding.
Fantastic.
Mental.
Okay, so we've got already some kindness in the room and some positivity. So let's start from there. So in thinking about parenthood, I think confusing is one of the words, because nobody ever tells you really what it's about until you're in the middle of it. It's confusing understanding our own behaviors. It's confusing understanding the behaviors of the children as they move through to teenage years and beyond. Parenthood is definitely tiring. A relative of mine is just going from maternity leave back into work, and how she then is going to juggle two children with mornings and pickups and after school. It's tiring, because some parents, most parents now, will have one, if not two, if not three jobs. But I
And
also, yeah, sorry.
apologies. Would you want to put the slides in slide mode, please?
Is it not in slide
Slideshow
mode?
mode. Not yet.
Can you see it now?
It's not full screen yet. We still have it as it was before, but it's moved to the next slide.
Okay, how's it look to you? Can you see two slides or one?
So I can see the one, but I can also see the list on the side.
Okay, so I don't quite know. Let me
So I
try one
think
more time.
if you can click on from beginning, perhaps. From
I
beginning.
think it's very
Yeah.
clear. It's very clear. I don't think you need to change anything. And conscious of time, please continue.
Please, I can just guide her. Anne, please just look under the file. There's a file. You see the file? Just click from the beginning. If you click on that, it should just
Okay.
take you. That's
What
it.
can you see? What can you see now? Okay.
Just as it should be. Thank you so much, Anne.
All right.
Thanks, Abias.
So some of the words that I've got in there, really tiring, entertaining and amusing. I mean, that's absolutely. Sometimes when we are feeling tired or confused, it just takes a child, one of our children, to do something, and then we fall about laughing. And somebody, I think, put that in the chat. It's also enlightening, because sometimes our children will come out with things that we least expect. They will talk about things and we think sometimes, well, they don't have a phone, or we don't let them watch the television, or where did they pick those things up? But also in terms of the knowledge that they're acquiring, we were not so media savvy. The use of IT in schools is really key. So enlightening about just how quickly some children really progress. But it can also be disrupting, because you get used to life being a certain way, and then having to juggle everything with meals and with this and with that. Some people find it really difficult to place, where does that parenting sit in the whole scheme of what I'm doing? But I'm resting here on the fact that it is enriching. It enriches our lives, and it enriches the lives of people that work with your children. because with a background in education, without a shadow of a doubt, most of the really positive experience that I've had with other teachers and leaders are always the discussions about what children are doing in the classroom and achieving. But of course, the last thing is parenting is expensive. But, you know, what I would say, and the thought for today is you only get one opportunity. And although you may have 1, 2, 3, 4 more children, each child needs to be seen as an individual, and every day is important. We only get the one opportunity. And I'm not saying that we're going to get it right all the time, but if you view it in that context, it's good that you're on this evening, and it's good that you're looking for strategies about how you can make that one opportunity work at its best. So let's explore a little bit. So we've had some words about feeling. What does, you know, what are we saying? Well, we're definitely saying that parenting is rewarding. It brings that sense of fulfillment. When we, you know, I work with a lot of people that maybe will take their children to classes on a Saturday, swimming, sports or whatever, or when the child comes home and shows a really good piece of work. It's that fulfillment. I'm getting something right. But that fulfillment also that's within your child as they grow. What they couldn't do yesterday, actually, I'm really proud of the fact that they can do that today. We can't deny that it's challenging. So if you are challenged, don't see that as wrong. Don't see that as demanding. Don't see that as, you know, there's a deficit. There's something wrong with what I'm doing. But it does mean that we have to be more patient. We don't necessarily remember our own childhoods. We don't know how patient our parents were with us. But again, if we keep those words in our mind of patience, problem solving, this isn't working. How are we going to explore this together? And then navigating as they move through, as I said, that exceptional journey through from being a young child into being a teenager and beyond into adulthood. Because you know that the thing about being a parent, it doesn't matter what age they are, those teaching opportunities and those challenges still exist. I've said before, it can be exhausting if you've got a young child, the uninterrupted sleep. They don't understand, you know, they don't. We have to sometimes step back and look at it from the child's perspective. They just want to be with you, but actually what you want to do is sleep so that you can get up for work in the morning. So, you know, it is exhausting, and there's a constant demand, because from the moment you wake up until the time you go to bed, there is a source of energy that is being put into that child. It is absolutely fulfilling, and definitely, you know, it teaches us, when we look at how children operate with other children, sometimes when adults operate with adults, it's a little bit disgraceful, isn't it? But when children operate with children, when a child goes into a situation for the first time, they don't care who's in the room or in the park or whatever. They just get on, they talk, they laugh, they play together. So it's humbling, and realizing that actually there's no perfect formula. So my approach very quickly this evening, in the time that I've got, is really to look at parenting in two ways. But the first thing I'll say to you is, don't ask me about perfect parenting, because my child is not your child. Every child is different. We always say that. I've done things wrong. Everybody's done things wrong. And we think, well, would we have done it like that the first time? Would we do it like that again? But my experience, as Peddy says, has come from 35 years. I don't like to say that because it does make me seem very old. But, you know, I've worked in schools for over 35 years. I've led schools. I've worked with leaders. And I've worked with thousands and thousands of children. So we know by the way that a child walks into school. We know by the way of whether they've got their shirt tucked in. We know by, are they always late? We know by the way that they're holding themselves. We know, by the way, of whether their parent comes to parents' evening, or we don't even know who their parents are. So that kind of dynamic about how you read children is really very key to me. And, you know, we don't want to lose the empathy. We don't want to lose that heart in the system. And that's why I put down there the second approach that I'm going to talk to you about is about parenting for and with authorities. And when I say authorities, I mean, you know, clearly schools or other services that can support your children and support you as you grow. So, you know, to start with, let's have a look at parenting for families. So communication is key. Well, and communication is key whether you're in a one-person family or two-person family or in a wider connected family. And that communication is not about all the children together. It's about finding the opportunities where you have that individual time with each child. It's about ensuring that if you get the opportunity to sit at the same table and have a meal, that, you know, there are certain guidelines about no phones. This is the time for us to build a strong family relationship. And this is a time where I can pick up whether something is happening within that child's environment or not. And we know that children, you know, particularly as they move through and get older, you say to them, oh, what do you do at school today? We're just interested, aren't we? What did you do at school today? And they usually say, oh, I didn't do anything. I didn't do very much. And actually, they did an awful lot. So it's for you to find those ways of them opening up and saying, well, this is part of what this family does in terms of understanding. My parents listen, and there is effective communication. We have to be patient because children will be children. And what we always say is, you can't resort to behaving like a child as a parent. So if a child sees that something happens and then the response is the parent is shouting and whatever, they, you know, build up in their mind, okay, this is what a parent does. This is my understanding of parenting. So, you know, sometimes it might mean that you've got to walk away from a situation for 5-10 minutes before you come back and think, right, this is what I'm going to do about it. And clearly we're not talking about situations where children are putting themselves in danger. But even we say this to teachers, no teacher should be raising their voice, because actually it just shows that the teacher's out of control and the child is still in control. So patience is key. Empathy, understanding, allowing your children to connect with each other as brothers and sisters, but connect with you on an emotional level. And how do you bring that out, particularly with boys? And I'll say that quite openly, that perhaps are not able to articulate their feelings as much. What types of questions are you going to ask? If they say something about what they've done and you clearly don't agree with what they've done, and you
can't wait for me. It's hot.
Sorry, I'll carry on. Clearly don't agree with what they've done. What's your reaction to that? Are you straight in and telling them off? Or are you thinking of the reasons behind them doing what they're doing? So that empathy with the child is important. And this one, consistency. Are they running to dad? Are they running to mum because they know mum is going to give them what they want? So whatever is happening, and I'm not here to discuss marriage or partnerships or anything like that, but the key to, you know, one of the keys is definitely agreeing what the consistent approach is going to be. Consistent approach and expectations and boundaries around discipline and beyond. And just very quickly, clearly being flexible, adapting to different circumstances. As I've said, children have their own needs and their own stages of development. If one child doesn't walk at 10 months, the other one takes more. That doesn't matter. Flexibly, you are working with each child. Problem solving, this is a difficult one, but you know, there's so much on websites. We've got Afrikindness now really striving with supporting you. There are online forums that you can talk to about parenting. There are other parents that have been in similar situations. So that problem solving should never be about you trying to do stuff by yourself. There's always going to be someone that can support. And then, of course, setting clear boundaries and helping your children. You know, some schools have become very rigid about their behavior. And I can't really go through too much about what I think about that. But what we say is we grow our children to become adults who are able to self-regulate themselves. So we've got to teach them somehow to be able to make the right decisions at the right time. But it does require the setting of very clear boundaries around certain things that you will accept and certain things that you won't. And that last area there is key for me, self-care. And I always say that if your energy is draining, how can you take care of anybody else? If your family is looking to you to support and you are not self-caring, what do you do to self-care? Is it all right to do this once a week? Is it all right to leave the children with somebody? Is it all right? What's that self-care? And that might be a question that you ask yourself at the end of today. What does that self-care look like for me? Do you feel guilty if you go and have a meal with friends? Do you feel? So what does that self-care look like for you? So some people, it might be sports and other things like that. But you know, the last point I want to make on this is that education starts at home and starts early. And research says that Black parents are more likely to have their children tutored, and that our children, Black children, start higher in the attainment ladder at a very early age. But that's no excuses. Carry on doing your English classes. Carry on doing your maths classes. Read with your children. Buy books. Make sure there's a system before they go to bed where they are reading to each other. That is the process, not just watching television. And I'm not saying you do this, please forgive me, but television, bed, no. What is the process that you're going to establish from a baby right the way through about processes for learning at home? I think this was quite key. For me, you can never forget your culture. Your children should never forget your culture. Your culture should be celebrated. Your culture is not behind closed doors in your house. Your culture is about what you look like, what you wear, what you say, how you pronounce certain things, what you eat. So just because we are growing up in a very British society, you know, it says a nation's culture resides in your heart. And we cannot forget who we are as people. And one of the things that I do in my work, I do a lot of work around this whole thing about self-esteem. Don't let your children forget who they are. Very quickly, parenting with schools and other authorities. Build positive relationships. It's no good starting to complain with a school if they don't see you at parents' evenings. They're doing coffee mornings. They're doing all kinds of things going on. If you can't get there yourself, someone in your family who perhaps doesn't work the same hours as you possibly can. Because schools love it. You know, it's your child, not their child. Your schools love it when they know who they are working with. And that communication becomes a mutual thing. Stay informed. You want to know what things are about, what's changing. Discuss it with your children. You can discuss progress, but unless you have an understanding of where does my child need to be by the age of 11, where does my child need to be by the age of 5? Can you show me? Say to the teacher, can you spend 10 minutes? I don't mind coming in after school. Can you show me how you work this out? Because then, you know, if a child's coming home and talking about levels and GCSE grades and all of that, you are more versed. We can all become experts at certain things, but keep informed of what's going on. Be an advocate for your child. You know, one of the things I always said, in the room, you and the school, you and the school need to be one. If you then go out of that and you tell the child off, but if you and the school are split, that gives a message, and you are split in front of the child. Sorry, if you're split and you're split in front of the child, that gives the child a clear message that I can do whatever I want in school because my mum, my dad is going to stand with me, whether it's bad or not. So think about your advocating for your child. You want the best. I've never met a parent that doesn't want the best for their child. But make sure when it comes to being in authority, what actions are you going to show? You know, do you ask your child to leave the room before that serious conversation takes place? How is that going to happen? And that, you know, that last one, definitely keep the lines of communication open. I'm just going to put these up. I'm not going to talk through all of them really, but, you know, it is about boundaries. It is about following protocols. And if you are new to a school, you are just as right in a position to ask, how does the school deal with? What is the school system for? Are there any changes that I need to know about? Seek clarity. If there are behavior issues, you know, how does the school ensure that all the children are treated the same and treated fairly? Unless you've got the right questions to ask, and unless you ask questions, you might not get the answers that you're looking for. So stay involved, stay involved, stay involved. And of course, think back. If we think back to our own childhood, think back to the things that we saw as positive in terms of our relationship with school. You may have had a bad relationship with school. I understand that some people do, but we remember those bits where we were praised, where our parents came and saw us in shows, where the teacher was able to say, I met your parent last night and we had you know, those things will stay with the child forever. So, you know, I wanted to just kind of just for a moment touch on faith. And I'm not going to go all religious. I am a Christian, but I'm not going to go all religious. But one thing I will say, and again, this is proven by the fact that I am a governor for a Church of England school, but it's just fact that Black parents tend to go to church more frequently, more often, and whatever. And sometimes that sort of guidance around moral purpose is absolutely key in bringing everything together. So this quote I thought was really good in terms of the smallest seed of faith is better than the largest fruit of happiness. So just holding on to that thought, I'm going to put some questions through to you that I don't think we'll have time to answer any of them tonight, but you could, if you want, put them in the chat or answer them in the chat. And my challenge to you is, and it lies in 4 questions. In what ways are you involving yourself in the life of your child? And that's both in and out of school. If I told you to tell me 30 things about your child in and out of school, where would you stop? What would you be able to say? What topics are they doing in school? Which friends are they keeping? If you're not home till 6 o'clock, what are they doing between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock? Which friends are they associating with in school? What academic achievements do they have? What events are coming up? And I'm talking for every child. What ways are you involving yourself in the life of your child, both in and out of school? Where does the knowledge and the aspirations for that child lie? Is it placed in your home? Is it placed in what you do? If you have no aspirations for yourself, oh, I'm doing this and I'm always going to do this. We need to be that person at the front saying, no, my child, one of the things we say is we're always learners. Doesn't matter what, whether you're 20 or whether you're 80, we can always learn. So if there are courses that we need to do, our children see that. Our children are inspired. If English is a second language, lots of places will put on courses about getting certificates and things like that. But you need to say, you can't just say, I've got aspirations for my child that I couldn't do myself. Because actually, as your child moves through those aspirations, they're going to need your support with homework. They're going to need your support with this. They're going to need your support. You're going to have to go into environments. You're going to have to go into that university when your child is there and know what you're doing. So aspirations and knowledge, yourself and for your children. How can I use the experience of my child to help my own learning? And with that, I'm particularly focused on IT. Most of us would cringe at the thought of artificial intelligence right now. But if you think about where children are, this method is coming through every day. There's so much. Ask them, are they using AI at school? How do you do this? And then, they'll be able to tap or whatever and show you something. You think, oh, great, I can start to use that. So how can I use the experience of my child? So we don't know everything. Some parents think, I'm the parent, so I'm going to know everything, and you're the child and whatever. No. Children are coming through at such a rate and are experiencing such awesomeness and actually that's the world that they're growing up in. If we're not preparing them for that future technology, then what's going to happen? So how can I use the experience of my child to help my own learning? And finally, do we follow the system or do we lead the system? And we have a mixture of people in life, don't we? We have those that will constantly complain and say, this was done, this was done, this was done, and never gave themselves a voice in the system. And my belief is we've got to lead the system. If we know that it isn't right, it isn't culturally right for our children, our cultures are not being celebrated, the school isn't doing something right, then we have to become leaders in our own right to say, okay, I've got a voice and I need to do something about it. So in order for change to happen, don't rely on the system changing and us not having a voice. Think about ourselves as leaders. So, my final bit of advice to you is Africanus has started this work of working with parents that's going to grow and grow and grow. And you want to invite more parents in because this stuff is free for you. I've never known anything quite like it. And it isn't just the odd webinar every now and then. They are giving you training. They are giving you training where you can ask what you need to ask. And not only that, people online tonight have spent time preparing real high quality materials for you to use and for you to refer to. If you think, I often say in this country, nothing is free. Not even the air you breathe, really. But what's free in this country? Nothing. And yet you've got an organization here that is saying this is something we need to do and we're going to support you with it. Videos, training workbooks, the surveys are important because they want to hear back how well we want to hear back how well we are doing. And from your comments, we will adjust, modify, improve, adjust, modify, improve. And the last one, of course, is a parent chat group where when you just need someone to talk to, someone's going to be there for you to answer a question for you. So for me, this is key, and this is key to all the work that I do. And I work with a lot of children still. I work with an exceptional number of leaders in education. I want leaders to look like your children. I think the staffing in schools should be diverse, but actually potentially in every child I look at, I see a leader, a leader in their field. What are they doing? There are miracles and glory in every child, in each child. Not every child's going to be what we call academic, but we don't need all children to be academic. We want them to be healthy. We want them to be loved. We want their mental health to be well. We want them to contribute to their family. We want them to be good parents. They're good parents because you have modeled what good parenting looks like. Our glory lies in empowering them to flourish their own glory, their glory. Our glory lies in empowering them to flourish their own glory. And on that note, I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Anne, for that. I think that's a fitting start to this training because you've shared with us so many important points around just how purposeful parenting can begin, what it's about, what we need to do. We've also talked about relationship with schools, parenting as a family, parenting with authorities. Thank you so much for that. I'd like to call on our facilitators for today's training. In the meantime, if you have any questions, comments, feedback based on Anne's presentation and keynotes, please feel free to share in the chats area. And as Anne mentioned, we have the web app, we have the chats to carry on this conversation. So please engage with us. Without further ado, I'm really delighted to welcome Paula Sampson Lawrence, who is a member of the parent team, but also a certified JAI parenting coach. Paula has 15 years experience in the field. So looks can be deceptive. She is an expert with over a decade worth of experience. 15 years is no mean feat. She's a mom. She also runs an agency which focuses on empowering parents on this journey. Paula is an expert in mentoring, and we're delighted to have her as part of the team. We'll hear more from her and you'll see what stuff she's made of. We're also delighted to have with us Dr. Vivian Okoye, who is the other facilitator for this training. Vivian, just like Paula, has 15 years experience as well. She's a psychologist. She's a neuro-linguistic practitioner. She's a parent coach. She's also an expert on issues of mental health and well-being. She's a mom. We're really delighted to have Vivian with us. And Vivian has done a lot of research, some of which she showcased yesterday when we had the session on neurodiversity. I'm sure you're itching to hear from them. And so I'll keep quiet now and hand over to Paula. Over to you, Paula.
Hello, everybody. Hope you can hear me okay. Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Petty. So I'm very conscious of time, so I'm going to jump right into the session. And I want to start by giving you the just the 5 principles that purposeful parenting underpins. So these 5 principles will be showcased throughout the whole year-long training. So this underpins the whole philosophy of purposeful parenting. And so I'm going to take you through those 5 principles. And after I've done that, we're going to go through the long-term positive impact that this style of parenting will have on your children and their development, because that's the reason why we're doing this, to make sure that we're raising healthy children who are confident, who are kind, and who are going to be, excellent members of society. Then we are going to go into the unconscious influence of cultural and generational patterns. So that's when Dr. Vivian will come in. And then we're going to help you set realistic goals and intentions for your parenting journey that we are hopefully going to take with you throughout this year. So let's get started with the 5 principles of parenting with purpose. So I'm going to try and whiz through these. The first one is focusing on fostering a positive and respectful relationship with your child. So what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? It's carving out one-on-one time, quality time. I always say, if you look at each child, each person having a bucket and positive interactions with you throughout the day, you're filling up that bucket. But any disconnection, criticisms, emotional dysregulation, if you look at these as holes in the bucket, and that's going to drain, all the positivity from that child's well-being. So what we're trying to do is fostering a relationship where we're filling up their bucket with as much positive interactions as possible. And, so taking the time to listen to them when they're speaking, giving them undivided attention. Sometimes we can be in such a rush to, some work, to household duties, and we might not give our children that full attention that they require. So that's really important. And building up a place where they can come to you and they know that you're going to listen to them. And so you have that relationship where the connection is maintained, and you work on cultivating and maintaining that connection regardless of what happens, whenever there's any disconnection, dysregulation, things that you don't agree on, but you always remember that you're trying to always bring it back to that connection between you and your child. The second one is practicing positive discipline. Now, this one is, I want you to kind of think about your parenting for the long term. So sometimes we might discipline in a way that's effective in the short term, it might seem, but we have to always consider at what cost is this type of discipline causing, at what cost to our child's well-being, at what cost to our connection with our child. So positive discipline is really focusing on positive reinforcement, for example. So we spend a lot of time sometimes as parents focusing on the things that our children do wrong. So when we have that opportunity and we see them doing something good, to mention it to them, to praise them, oh, that was nice that you helped your sister do this, or you did that, so that they know that you're just not picking up all the time on the things that they're doing wrong, but also you are noticing the things that are doing positively. And then if they are doing things wrong, that you have already set clear, consistent, age-appropriate boundaries. And that's really important, that they're age-appropriate and they're clear and they're consistent, because boundaries are actually really important for a child to feel safe, to feel confident, so they can kind of operate. They know the confines within how they can operate. And if they start to test those boundaries, you're able to then come in and say, remember, these are our boundaries. These are the parameters that we cannot cross. And then you have consistent consequences for when those barriers are crossed. Now, when it comes to consequences, they need to be age appropriate. For example, if you have a 2-year-old, for example, that 2-year-old is only just learning about impulse control. Most of the time, they cannot control their impulses. They're just going to do things. They're just going to emote, right? So if they do something, spill something, throw something, break something, it's about not overreacting, because you understand that they're 2. Yeah. So, and it's going to require a lot of patience on your part. So you can discipline in a way that you can redirect your child. We cannot do this, but we can do this instead. And redirection is something that works for all ages. If your teenager wants to watch something and you're not comfortable with what they want to watch, you don't think it's appropriate, you redirect them. We cannot watch this, or we can watch this. So you're given options, so you're working with your child, as opposed to saying no, as opposed to saying you can't do that. It's changing and shifting your language to say, this is what we can do instead. And also remembering that if your child does something wrong, if they have a meltdown, if they're emotionally dysregulated, that there is a need under that behavior, that all behavior is communication. So what are they actually trying to let you know? What are they communicating to you? Most of the time, it's not that they're just being annoying. They just want to get on your nerves. They just want to test you. Most of the time, there is some sort of need going on. And as parents, we want to get curious and say, I wonder what's going on under that behavior. What's that about? What's going on? Is it a school thing? Is it at home? Is it just that you need some food? You know, it could be anything, but just trying to get to the bottom of the behavior, as opposed to just labeling the behavior and trying to sort of give them a consequence for something that they just needed a need to be met. And a big part of positive discipline is going to be managing your own emotions as a parent. That's the first thing. So what I want you to think about is, I call it the power of the pause. Before you react, pause. Before you say those words, pause. Before you open your mouth, pause. Before you react, pause. Give yourself a moment so that you can respond instead of reacting, because that's what we want. Because when you react, it's likely that you're going to do something that you regret, say something that you regret, or cause the situation to be amplified. You know, the point is always to diffuse the situation. We don't want to make it worse. We don't want to pour gasoline on the fire. We're trying to put the fire out. So positive discipline is really approaching the behavior from a different angle, trying to see what's underneath it, trying to meet your child's needs, and trying to see where you can come together and be more collaborative, as opposed to handing out punishment. And I quickly want to say something that might be a little bit controversial, is if you can, try to use natural consequences as much as possible, as opposed to punishment, because punishments will teach your child that I shouldn't do that again because I will get into trouble. What you want to teach them is there are natural consequences to things. If you break a toy that's quite a expensive toy, and you might have told your child that toy is quite delicate, be careful, and they're not being careful and they're not listening, and that toy breaks. Natural consequences, they no longer get to play with that toy. You're not buying them a new one. And you can say that kindly but firmly, we're not getting a new one. But we don't want to move into the area of, I call it sort of revenge, you know, which is like, I'm going to teach you a lesson for not listening to me the first time. So we have to try and keep ourselves emotionally regulated so that we're not moving, we're not making the situation worse, or we're not prolonging the situation. We just give them that natural consequence, and then having a conversation around how can we look after our things? How can we treat our things better, and understanding the value of our items. Moving on to the next one is prioritizing open communication and maintaining connection. This is really important because it's important that your children know that they can come to you and they can have a conversation with you. They can tell you what's on their mind. But that also requires you to be ready to receive feedback that you might not necessarily be ready to receive. So your child might give you feedback about you as a parent, and you have to be sort of ready to hear that, you know, and say, okay, that is how you feel, and I'm here to hear you. And the other thing is, you want them to be able to tell you things about their family, their friends, and have you not react in a way that's an overreaction, because they may feel that, oh my gosh, I can't tell my mom, I can't tell my dad this thing because they're going to overreact. And you always want to keep that line of communication open. That's how you won't get blindsided by something that they're struggling with, that they didn't feel that they can come to you with. You know, always make sure you can come, let them know that they can come to you and speak to you about anything, and you're always there on their team to help them, whatever it is. And that requires you to kind of put aside your judgment about what they're telling you and just be open to hearing it. The next thing is on the list, number 4, is respect children as individuals. I know it can be hard sometimes because there are children, there are babies forever, and we have like an ownership over our children sometimes, it can feel like. But it's just remembering that they are their own people, and they are not you, and they are not going to, they are going to live and have their own lives, and that is okay. You know, they're not an extension of ourselves. They are going to have their own hopes, their own dreams, and we should allow them to have that. and not take it personal if they sort of do something that you weren't maybe expecting them to do, or they don't meet an expectation that you had for them. It's okay to, look at their interests, take an interest in what they're interested in, and let them know that who they are and how they are is okay by you, because that's what unconditional love is saying you don't have to fit into these boxes that I want to put you in, but who you are is okay. And so that's really important. And the final one is creating a peaceful and non-violent home environment. The number one thing that helps young children thrive and develop into healthy grown-up human beings is feeling that safety and having peace and feeling safe and feeling seen and soothed in the home. So as much as we can, we want to reduce incidences of yelling, conflict in the home. The home should always be a place where your child can feel calm and safe and okay to be themselves. So if emotional dysregulation is a problem for you, if you find that you're always yelling and you're unable to calm down, that trickles down into our children. And then you'll find that they might struggle with emotional dysregulation. And then it becomes a situation in the home where there is always yelling, there's always conflict. And then the parent might say, and maybe some of you have said this, my kids never listen until I yell. But that's because we've conditioned it that way. We have to remember that we are the leaders in the home, and we set the tone for how the home is run, for the energy within the home, for the tone in the home. So our kids are going to pick up on our behavior. So if we are able to regulate ourselves, work on our calm, that's going to permeate throughout the home and into your children. And you will find that you don't have to resort to yelling. And your child will not expect you to yell before they do what you've asked them to do. Because this is a very, very common thing where people say yelling works, shouting works, because then I get their attention. But you're not getting their attention for the right reasons. You're getting their attention because you've kind of shocked them into the yelling. Now they're like, oh my gosh, we need to get moving because something is about to happen. Their nervous system has been activated. That's what's really happening. And so it's finding a way to build cooperation in the home without resorting to yelling, without resorting to physical violence or resorting to conflict in the home. So those are the 5 principles that sort of underpins the parenting with purpose ethos and way of parenting. If we go on to the next slide, you might have heard these terms. I think they're like buzzwords at the moment, especially gentle parenting, positive parenting, conscious parenting, authoritative parenting, parenting with purpose. Now, gentle parenting, for example, is a bit of a buzzword, especially on social media. It's actually getting a little bit of backlash, I would say, on social media. But that's because I think there is a misunderstanding about the term. I personally don't like the term gentle parenting. I told my son, who's nearly 14, that I'm a gentle parent, and he fell about laughing for about half an hour because he said, Mum, you're not gentle, okay? Because gentle parenting gives the idea that you're soft, and it gives the idea that you're a permissive parent. Now, permissive parenting, we'll talk about a little bit later, but I just want to be clear on that these terms are pretty much meaning the same thing. So if we go on to the next slide, we will see that, let's see. What these terms are really showing us that people are moving into a new way of bringing up children. Some people say the kids these days are different, are not how they used to be. So we need a different way to interact with our kids then. If they're different, we can't use the same old way of thinking, the same old way of interacting, behaving, the same old beliefs. We need a whole new belief system. We need a whole new way to interact with our children, to get through to them and to get them to be developed the way that we want them to be developed. So conscious parenting, gentle parenting, positive parenting, authoritative parenting, and parenting with purpose all have these general traits in common. Now, the first one is you are responsive and you are meeting your child's needs, and you're combining warmth and sensitivity. And like I said before, you're realizing that all behavior is communication, and underneath all behavior is some sort of need. So you're responding to the need, trying to find out and going beneath the behavior to see what the need is, as opposed to just responding to the behavior. And if we go on to the next one, the next one is setting of age-appropriate limits firmly but kindly. I always say that I wish that it was sort of compulsory for parents to do a little bit of basic child development or child brain development, because then you'll understand that some of our rules and boundaries that we have for our children are not age appropriate at all. You know, some things we expect them to be able to do, they're not ready to do, and that's okay. And it's about supporting them at the point at where they are. You meet your child where they are. If you set expectations that are not appropriate for them, we're just setting them up to fail. So we always are firm, you know, but we do it kindly. And that's a common trait with all this types of parenting. The next one, we have got, let's see, using positive reinforcement. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. It's about picking up on all the positive things that your child does. As I said, we're so often so quick to pick up on the negative and correct the negative. And there's a saying that says connection before correction. So it's all about maintaining that connection, picking up on the positivity that they're doing, trying to fill up their bucket with as much positive praise, picking up on their positive behavior, so that you're not draining away all that with just criticism, with constant correcting them, with constant ordering them to do this, that, and the other. So we're really trying to build up the amount of positive interactions with your child in the day. So that really outweighs the negative interactions with your child. The next one we've got here is using reasoning to guide and teach our children. We have to move away from because I said so, because that's how it is, do what you're told. Because what happens is we want to raise children for the long term. So we need them to understand the reasons behind why they should and shouldn't do things. They need to understand why they have boundaries for certain things, why it's not safe, some things are not appropriate for them. If they don't understand that, if all they know is, I can't do that because I'm going to get into trouble, then they've not learned anything, or we've not taught them anything. And they're never going to have that intrinsic motivation where they themselves are able to regulate their own boundaries, because they won't know how to do that, because they've just been taught, because I said so, because that's the way it is, I'm the parent, do what you're told. So we're really trying to explain to our children in an age-appropriate manner why things are how they are, why boundaries are in place, why rules are in place, and why regulations are in place. And the final one, which is really, really important, is parents taking responsibility for their own emotions. So that looks like, even if you're having a hard day, if your day has been long and you're tired, and even if you've told your child not to do something 15 times before, they are still not responsible for when you lose your temper with them. They are still not responsible for when you yell at them. That's still not their responsibility. We are in charge of our own emotions, of our own actions, of our own behavior, and we have to take ownership of that, because we cannot teach our child to take responsibility for their own emotions if we've given them the job of our emotions as well. And I said earlier on, we are the leaders in the home. We go first. If you want your child to be able to emotionally regulate themselves, you have to be able to emotionally regulate yourself. We cannot ask our children to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves. So if you want your child to work on their calm, we work on our calm first. If you want your child to use their words and not yell or grab, we have to do all that first. So take responsibility for our own emotions. Figure out how you're going to calm yourself first. And the truth is, young children especially will borrow from your calm. They will borrow from your regulation. That's called co-regulation, where your child is having a meltdown. We can't be melting down along with the child. You find your calm first, and you're going to bring your child into your calm. So those are the common traits of purposeful parenting, positive parenting, gentle parenting, authoritative parenting. They all have those general traits in common. Now, the next one, I want to really talk about, oh, there was one more. I just missed that one, actually. Threats and harsh punishments are avoided. So say, if you look at number 5 of the principles of purposeful parenting, which is that we're trying to create a non-violent, a peaceful, calm home environment. So we're not resorting to threat and harsh punishment as a way of controlling our children, of coercing our children, because the truth is, again, threats and harsh punishments might work for a time, but we are parenting for the long haul. At some point, you will not be able to threaten your child any longer. At some point, you cannot, scare your child. If you have a son and he's 15, maybe whatever you did worked when he was 5. Now he's 15 and he's towering over you. Your threats might not work. We have to find a different way of relating to our children, and then we have to think about the long-term impact of yelling, the long-term impact of smacking. If it works in the short term, what about the long term? It's been shown by research that it affects the nervous system. It causes anxiety. It causes you to be hypervigilant. When I remember I had a client who talked about when she went to her child because her child did something wrong and her child flinched. And that's when my client said, I knew I had to make a change. Because what did that feel like to see your child try to protect themselves from somebody who's meant to be their caregiver, from somebody who they're meant to feel safe with, from somebody who's meant to be their protector. And now your child wants to defend themselves from you. We have to find a different way. The well-being of our well-being and of our children is at stake. So that's really important to find different ways of disciplining, regulating, and problem solving and resolving conflict that is not threatening and it's not harsh and it's not all about punishment. The next one is, so I wanted to talk quickly about what purposeful parenting is not. Okay, so we're sitting sort of in the middle. Over here, we've got traditional authoritarian parenting. So we're talking about strict rules that don't take into consideration at all the child's development, the child's stage, where they are in anything like that. It's just the rules are blanket for everybody. There's high expectations, again, not taking into consideration what's appropriate for your child. And you are enforcing compliance through harsh punishment, threats, and control. That's the way you get your children to behave in traditional authoritarian parenting. Then you've got the whole other side of the spectrum, permissive parenting, which is what a lot of people think gentle parenting is. They think it's permissive, where the children really are in control because the parents have decided that they can't deal with conflict. The children have more control, limits and boundaries are not enforced consistently. So the child kind of knows that they can get away with things, So, purposeful parenting sits in the middle of that. So I would love to actually, while I'm talking, if you've ever heard of that kind of parenting, permissive parenting or traditional parenting, if you want to quickly pop in the chat, what were your sort of preconceived ideas about it? And see if there was any synergy there. I'd love to hear what you think. But with purposeful parenting, we are not relying on coercion and control and threat and harsh punishment, but we're also not letting the children do exactly what they want. We are being leaders in the home, we're guiding them, and we are moving them through life and remembering that we're parenting for the long term. The goal is bringing up children into adulthood. So sometimes we can do things that are work in the short term, but do not work in the long term. And that's what we want to avoid. And I've seen in the comments that somebody said, I thought gentle parenting was permissive. And that is exactly my problem with the term gentle parenting, because it gives people the completely wrong impression. But that's not what it is at all. And purposeful parenting, gentle parenting, it all is, in research, it's called authoritative parenting. And if we can bring the slides back up, there's a piece of research that shows that this style of parenting is the best way to bring up children. It is more likely that your children are going to grow up confident, have less behavior issues, have less, be less susceptible to depression, to anxiety. So this is where we want to go. This is, for most of us, this is our main aim, our intentional, our purpose for our parenting. That is what we want our children to go up to be. Let's see. So there's a poll there. Can everyone see that poll? I think people might have put it in the chat. Let's see. Can everyone see in the chat that there is the poll there, and it's got the code that I think you can do like a little vote. There was one last thing we wanted to do, which is, oh, let's have a look here. Beating a child. So this is what somebody thinks traditional authoritarian parenting style is. Yes, beating a child, harsh punishment, physical punishment. Let's see. Strict, yes, that's correct. There's just sort of no flexibility in the home. Let's wait for one more to come through. Yelling, that's correct. Yeah, beating a child, yelling, strict, those are components of it. Yeah, harsh punishment. Not allowing to talk. Oh, wow. Yes, I understand what that means. The parent is always right. Exactly. One-way traffic style. Yes, there's some good suggestions here. That's exactly what the components of sort of more traditional authoritarian parenting style. I like to call it parent over. So the parent are up here and the children are sort of down here, basically. I think there's two people last typing. Always screaming, grandiose style. Intimidating, yes. Military, wow, yeah, yes. Not listening, bossy. I think, is that the last comment? Obey and don't complain. That's very true. You must do it my way. Yes. I think we have 2 more votes coming in, 2 more comments. Yeah, these are some great thoughts that you've put through. And the truth is, a lot of us, I speak for myself, this is how I was brought up. This is exactly how I was brought up. And sometimes we can only do what we know, even though we might say, I want to do things differently. Unconsciously, subconsciously, you're wired to repeat what you've been modeled. That's why it's so important for us to model how we want our children to behave. Always screaming. Autocratic in nature, grandiose style. That's perfect. Well, thank you to everybody for sharing your thoughts there. I'll just double check the slides. I believe we're going to go into a quick look into the workbook. Let me just double check that. Okay, that's it. I wanted to just quickly read out this piece of research. And remember that where it says authoritative parenting, that is purposeful parenting, that is gentle parenting. It says, so you're more likely to become independent, so children are more likely to become independent, self-reliant, socially accepted, academically successful, and well-behaved. They are also less likely to report depression and anxiety, and less likely to engage in antisocial behavior like delinquency and drug use. And if you're in a situation where you're thinking, my husband doesn't agree with this kind of parenting, or my wife doesn't agree with that kind of parenting, it says here, research suggests that having at least one authoritative parent can make a big difference. So it only takes one parent to follow this style of parenting to still make a big impact. And then let's just go to the next one. So this is just the 5 principles that I went through at the beginning of what underpins the whole parenting with purpose ethos. And in the workbook, there is a section where you can just have a minute to pause and reflect and just think about which of those 5 principles do you think will come easily to you, and which ones do you feel like might be quite challenging? So maybe we could bring up the 5 principles again on the screen, just to remind you of what they were. And then you could have a look and have a little think. Hopefully you've all got your workbooks. If you haven't got it at the moment, there should be in your email, but if you haven't got it, you can just look at the list and have a little think about which ones do you think, yeah, I could get on board with that, and which ones do you think that might be a little bit challenging for me. So if we just look in the chat, I believe that if you don't have your workbook, you can just drop a message on the WhatsApp group and that will get sent to you. Dr. Peddy, can I just bring you on quickly? Is Dr. Peddy still here? Because we've just got a few minutes left, are we going to split the sessions? Is Dr. Peddy there?
Yes, I think we would go straight to setting of intentions and just keep the cultural ones.
Yes, okay, no problem, that's fine. Okay, so what I really want you to do is just have a little think about what your intention is for this course. What do you want to get out of it? What made you even sign up in the first place? What do you want to get out of it? What is your vision for your relationship with your child or your children? What do you want that to look like on a day-to-day basis? Is it that, it could be anything from, I want this to be more cooperation in the home. That's a great intention. I want to feel more connected to my child. I want to be able to discipline in a way that's more in line with my values. So just think about what you want to achieve. Because if we don't set intentions, you're kind of just being blown away by the wind. It's good to, at the end of the training, be able to look back and say, this is what I intended to do, and look at all the progress I've made. And then you can really celebrate how you're getting on, and celebrate your progress, and you can kind of keep track of where you are and where you want to get to. We talked about at the beginning, it's not about perfection. It's every day, bit by bit, making progress. So if you have a vision in your mind in the first place, you've always got somewhere to head to. You've always got somewhere to go. I always say, like, it's a path, it's a road that you're on. So you know which way you're going, you know which way you're headed, and you know why you're doing these things. So I'd love for you to kind of sit with that for a couple of minutes. And, if anybody would love to share, I would love to hear it. You can put it in the chat if you'd like to. And I'd love to hear what your vision is for your relationship with your child. And while you're thinking about that, I'm happy to tell you mine, what prompted me to look into this style of parenting, to become certified as a parent coach. I have 4 children. And so I always say to my clients, I'm right there with you. I'm in the thick of raising them day to day. I haven't done it before, so I've forgotten what it's like. I'm there. My kids are 13, 11, 9, and 4. So I'm hitting all the targets. So, and with my son, like I used the example earlier on, I wanted to relate to him in a way that wasn't going to use fear, because I knew that eventually fear wasn't going to work. So I wanted a respectful relationship with him, so that he knows that I respect my mother and this is how I interact with her. So that was my vision for my children, to have that connection and to have mutual respect. And in the home, to be more collaborative. I'm not in charge. I am the leader, yes, but none of us in this house is more important than the other. We're all important. All our needs matter. So how can we all try to meet the needs of each other? So let's see some comments in the chat. I look forward to being the best parent ever any child experiences, irrespective if they're my biological children or otherwise. That is beautiful. I love that. If you don't have the workbook, that can be sent to you. If you're part of the WhatsApp group, just pop a message in there and that will be sent to you. And another comment here says, create a better connection with my children, reduce yelling to the barest minimum, enjoy the parenting journey, respect my children more, and be more patient with my children. And that is a great vision. That's a beautiful vision. Being a friend, mentor, a teacher, meting out discipline as appropriate, yet remaining as friends. Yes, yes, yes. Perfect. Let's just make sure there isn't any other. There we go. Oh, no, it just says about the workbook if anybody doesn't have it yet. Another comment here says, relating better with my children, respecting them as people and yelling less. That's great vision too. So if you haven't got the workbook, please do. I think the email is info@afrikindness.com, and we will get that sent over to you. The workbook is something that you can keep, you can make notes in. There's actually a little piece of homework that I'd love to set you that's also detailed in the workbook. So I really love this quote. One generation of deeply loving parents would change the brain of the next generation, and with that, the world. Isn't that just the truth? This quote, I have it on my fridge, and it reminds me every day why I do what I do. So yeah. Right. I will ask you for your final reflections in one moment. I just quickly want to go through the homework that I'd love for you to give a go. You can implement this today, tonight. It's active listening. I mentioned earlier right at the start about slowing down, taking your time and giving your children that undivided attention. And can you challenge yourself to not rush them, not interrupt them, not try to anticipate what they're going to say to move the conversation along, and just slow down and show up for them and to listen intently and try not to interrupt and try not to label or judge whatever it is they're saying. Just be open to receiving it. And then what I'd love you to do is reflect back to them what they've just told you, because nothing shows somebody that you're listening better than being able to reflect back what they've just said. And it doesn't have to be word for word. It's just a general kind of overview of what they said, just to let them know, is that right? And you might see a change in your child. They might go, yeah, that's exactly what I said. And it just lets them know that you see them, you hear them, and that you understand them. And most of the time, that's what all children want. That's what we want as adults. Everybody wants that, to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood. So I would love you to give that a go in your daily interactions with your children and see how you get on. In the workbook also is, there's like a little check-in that you can do with yourself in the morning and in the evening, because a lot of what interferes with our interaction with our children is how we're feeling on a day-to-day basis. If you're stressed at work, if you're stressed about life, that's going to come out in your relationships and how you interact with them. So if you can notice that from the start of the day and say, I'm feeling this way, then you'll be able to better manage yourself so that you're not then making your child pay for something that's not their fault or that they cause. You know, I said before, we must never make our children the reason why we, lashed out or yelled at them or something. Let's take a moment to assess yourself and how you're feeling before you start the day. So there's a little bit of section in the workbook where you can do that. And again, at the end of the day, you can just reflect back how that day went for you, what you did well, what you didn't do well. And this isn't to sort of beat yourself up if you ended up yelling again or losing your temper. It's to say, you know what, this is what went wrong today, but tomorrow I'm going to try again. Because that's what we do. Just commit to showing up and trying again. We want progress, not perfection. So I'd love you to give that a go and sort of jot down some little notes in your workbook, just to sort of keep yourself on track about what you're doing. And then, very excited to announce this to you. So we'd love to start a book club. We would love for 2 volunteers, so any parents here who love to read, who would love to take on this book, Beyond Behaviors by Mona de la Hook. This is a great book that really starts to get you thinking about looking underneath a child's behavior and meeting their behavior with curiosity, as opposed to labeling and judging what you can see, really getting underneath what could be the cause of that behavior. So this book is a very straightforward read. It's not heavy at all. So I would love for 2 parent volunteers to sort of head up the book club, and Africa Kindness will give you a physical copy of the book, and you can read each chapter and then summarize that chapter for the other parents in our parent web app. And then we can maybe get a conversation going and what we can learn from each chapter. So if you'd like to volunteer, please let us know in the WhatsApp group if you'd like to take that on. You'll be given a copy of the book and you can kind of share the takeaway with us, and we can all join in with some of the things that you've learned from the book. And
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Oh.
Richard has volunteered. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Richard. Please let us know if there's anybody else who would love to do that. That would be great. Do we need 2 or do we need
We have a second volunteer, actually,
have a second
Anu
one?
Aribs. Yeah, yeah.
Let's see.
Thank you, Anu Aribs. So we'll get in touch with
perfect.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Paula, we should get you to do some marketing for us as well. You're a good salesperson.
Am I a good salesperson?
Oh, but really, thank you so much for that, Paula. Thank you, and thanks to everyone. I mean, it's been a lovely evening. Well, for me, it's been a really lovely evening, and I hope it's been the same for all of you. We would want to hear from you. We would love to hear your feedback about how today's session has gone. And like we say, it's the start of more to come. So please do fill in the survey. We have the QR code there. If you just scan it and fill in the survey. We haven't been able to cover everything we had planned for today. So imagine if we had covered everything. So we want you to come back for more and more and more. And we hope that you give us feedback. We can also improve on the next set of events. So thank you so much for that. And watch this space. We will have drop-in sessions starting in April. So we'll have the drop-in sessions, we'll have in-person events. Just look out for the information which we'll be sharing through the WhatsApp group, but also through the Parents Web app. If you have any questions around how to join the WhatsApp group or how to join the Parents Web app, please let us know. But we have set up the group, and it's an opportunity to network with other parents, is an opportunity to also get the support that's needed, bespoke support. We want you to also see on your calendars all of the events that we have coming up as we bring them across to you through our social media. So of course, if you haven't followed us on social media, please do follow us so that you can get the latest information. In April, we will be having a session on GCSE A-level success for children. And that means if you have any children, anyone, it could even be a family relation who would benefit from GCSE A-levels tips, strategies, do attend the webinar. We already have a lineup of experts who will be there to answer the questions from parents. So please look out for the information and we will send this across to you. Thank you. We have a question about joining the WhatsApp group. How do we join? So we will get in touch with you about joining the WhatsApp group. And if you look through the chat, we also have a link to the training survey. Just drop your details there and we'll get in touch with you. If you have any other questions, you could also send an email to the info@AfriCkindness and we'll just follow up with you on that. I think I may be keeping you away from dinner or indeed from your homework because I'm sure you're all itching to go do the homework. So thank you very much for being here. And I mean, we've got all the information we'd like to share with you. Yesterday, we talked about the Africa Invest Neurodiversity Community Project. For those of us who were not there or who would want to remind that this is a project that is really focused on promoting awareness around neurodiversity in the community. So please, we have the QR code on the screen now. If you just scan so that you can get more information about this and how to get involved, we would appreciate that. This project is funded by the Leeds Community Foundation and also St. George Martin Trust. So they're funders who really understand the importance of this. We also have a dedicated group on the Parents Web app for families with neurodiverse children. So if you think you would be interested, you could get the support that's needed, or indeed if you know any parents who would benefit from this support, please let them know so that they can join, because it's a closed group. So it's only going to be for parents who can directly benefit from the support. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the evening. We hope you've had a really good experience, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. Thanks a lot to Paula, to Anne, to Vivian, to everyone who's made comments, suggestions, to our volunteers for the reading club. Thank you so much, and see you again soon.